So I know I said I wasn't going to absorb myself in a state of unchanged clothes and unwashed balls of seasonal depression. And it's a figure of speech because I haven't. This just happened to be one of the last albums I listened to and wrote about before I openly declared that recently. And I have been keeping my word. I just re-listened to All Saints' first album, and by re-listen, I mean listen to for the very first time. But the whole time I was listening to that album, I was thinking about this album. Number 7, Uptown. Stupid title, I know. And it felt like I was cheating. I had to leave my state of delusion and return to my usual state of uncombed hair and daily 9 to 5 reality. Life is funny in that secretly hates you and constantly wishing on your downfall, but still comes around sort of way. A few months ago, I would spend my time talking to my voice memos in between working and hanging out with my best bud Tolgren. And that was the status quo for a while, just living day by day with unknown goals in mind, going through the motions. But one day that all changed. I got a new job, found myself with a hobby, and every weekish or so, these things are a little bit inconsistent, I talk to a microphone in hopes that strangers will grace me with their presence. It's not much better, I know, but it staves off the generational feeling of aimlessness and helps me avoid developing any problematic schizophrenic tendencies. So it's been good or decent in doing that. It all happened around the same time that soft-spoken lady gave me those pills and Tolgren just kind of stopped coming around. And one of my friends who was in the bitter rivalry with Tolgren loves to call this character development, a concept I'm familiar with but am as accepting of as moderators are to Sharon. That's not to say I hate it or don't believe I can grow as a person. It's just not accurate. I'm not saying I'm arced out by no means, but I've only experienced so little in life. My mundane experience isn't anything remarkable. Billions of people do it every day, some even more talented and unnoticed than me. But there's a beauty in the people who can specifically find something so remarkable in the unremarkable. And that's today's album. I don't have much of a history of swearing at motorists, but I have known about the band for about a year now. Discovering them from Smart Shuffle after listening to Silkworm, which I discovered from my recommendations listening to Povo, 3 degrees of the algorithm, I guess. And my initial reaction was, holy shit, is that critical? Kind of sort of became my mental image for a while listening to the album. I'm rambling, but like when I have songs in my playlist, I would be like, oh wait, is this critical? And then I'm like, oh no, wait, this is not critical. This is just some random white guy from Ohio. But it was fun. It was fun for a while. They were one of those bands that I initially only liked one song from, that being Flying Pizza. It goes crazy. So it was pretty easy for me to just keep that head canon going. Not really delving too deep into the band or the album's histories or anything. I just kind of had a surface level knowing of what it was. And even though it's kind of stupid, it's kind of juvenile, kind of, I don't know, I almost said neurotic, but neurodivergent-ish type behavior, but it was fun. And every time I heard that song, I would just imagine Critical, not so much after the pills. It didn't take long for me to stumble across another song, Talking Pictures, a song from the album Not Me Actually Being Oblivious to My Surroundings, where I finally understood the true nature of the music and began to actually appreciate it as more than just a joke. A sad in-joke that nobody really was in on, but a joke nonetheless. Not being unfamiliar with lo-fi music, I always just tend to lean more towards the experimental or rhythmic side of it, as it's easier to find a home and appreciation, if not a full-on love to albums that just catered towards that. I'm not saying it's the case constantly, but I feel the best lo-fi music is the stuff that sort of kind of overcompensates for the kind of shit production. And this album is pretty basic looking on surface and in presentation. It didn't seem to have the same charm as, say, a Duster or a Panchico, with it being basic alternative / indie with folk elements, especially with the vocals. It scared me of boredom. But assumptions made my ass fat with presumption, and I was pleasantly surprised. David Doman is someone who needs a lot of fucking introduction. Helen from Ohio, the home of many notable lo-fi acts of the decade, such as Brainiac, Kofax, and Afghan Wings all comes to mind. Also, Scott the Wasp. Ohio having a bit of a anything goes approach when it comes to their scenes. You would think to be loved and critically acclaimed, you would have to be something exceptional. And you'd be dead wrong. Like, so damn wrong that it's fucking embarrassing. Consisting. That sounds illegal. Swearing at Motorist is a duo consisting of the previously mentioned Doughboy at vocals and guitar and whatever drummer he's in the room with currently. It's Martin Botry's currently, but the longest in on this LP was Joseph Sawinski. I hope I pronounced that name right. Forming in 1995, the band released a string of EPs and a couple of albums, them being pretty prolific and consistent in themes and concepts, all with a constant change and rotation of drummers. It's really hard to know exactly because it's not really all archived properly, and Apple Music doesn't have all the EPs, confusing me on what's what. But to my knowledge, this is the band's third album, Uptown, number 7. Still a stupid title. Releasing on October 24th of 2000, the album is a decent 15 tracks at a bare bones 27 minutes. Like, I don't even know, do they make albums this short anymore? I haven't listened to anything like super new, but I know like most albums run times are at least 34, 35 minutes. This is 27. This kind of blew my mind. I got this like, oh, that's pretty small, bro. Actually pretty small. Opening with the band's biggest song, and it's a jam. It's a simple song with no bass or no audible bass that I can hear. It's carried by Doman's raw lyrics, but it's a song about an awkward encounter Dave once had. And off the bat, I love that. It's an honest song, not overly confessional, not super relatable, and is a no-brainer as why it's their most popular song. It's soothingly heartbreaking. I know this is definitely a go-to when they perform live. It's just too well-rounded and fleshed out compared to the majority of the things, not only on this record specifically, but in their discography. I can just hear the crowd chanting along as Dave belches it out. Inverted Christmas Song and Numbers Have Too Many Meanings for Me, Fall Out Boy type title Spotted, are the best examples of what I mean by bare bones. Not bad songs, they just are snap flashes. They go as quickly as they can, with the former feeling like all it needed was a minute or more for it to really spread its wings and take off, but no, it's cut short. For a purposely bare bones lo-fi approach and production style, it's not as harsh as you would think on the ears, even being polished at times. Like on one of the few actually fully truly realized tracks, Dog with a Lampshade Head, yes, that's the name of the song. The instruments subtly take a backseat to Doman's vocals at points, which fills the album with this subtle climatic charm. For an album with this caliber, like, yo bitch, this is just White Castle. But it really fits the band's overall tendency to have character-driven thematic elements interwoven with everyday experiences. It feels kind of targeted at times. Step aside, Silver Jews and Lou Barlow. There's a real lonely white guy in town. And I don't say that lightly. With most of the songs from the album sounding like the most unambitious, accident-prone individual in existence. Weirdly so, because Doman always seems goofy, aware, and nonchalant. Bullet is probably the defining low point off the album. It's not a bad song, but it's definitely boring as hell, with half of it being filler, no way around it. It makes this moment super long in my head, and definitely not in a good way. Not to mention the sirens and the fact that it sounds like he's singing in a fucking grungy basement. I mean, he probably is, but is not doing anything to help the aesthetic of the song. It's a dark track that needs to kind of choose a different time to be around. Hogan Take Me Away is a burst of life into the album that was foreshadowed earlier with the prelude to Miss, and it is easily the second most catchy song, maybe out of the whole entire band's discography, with an unexpected appearance from some horns and a droning, almost siren sounding like chord, I assume, with these double backed up vocals becoming more disconnected from the original. The production sharts a bit when Dave's vocals hit a fever pitch, but it's still an amazing track. And Maybe Sorrow is literally just a conversation he actually had, bro. Like, literally. Talking Pictures is really the last fully realized track, and as I said earlier, it's freaking wonderful. It's a woman's voice. A woman? And she matches his energy in every way. It makes for a wonderful duet and a healthy, somber moment. I wouldn't say Doman is a great vocalist, but he has this rawness and authentic, almost original kind of alternative blend with folk sound that makes him instantly recognizable. And he can also hold a melody. Whether it's by himself or duetting, his thick kind of folksy but non-southern vocals are really unique, and this made it all more appealing for me with his slacker presentation. It's a very photographic album, one filled with regret, love sickness, and while listening, I can't help but imagine looking through a photo book and seeing pictures of old friends, lovers, and places long gone. It evokes this mixture of sonder and nostalgia that looms over every song. I know it's not responsible for it, but mundanity has become a rather popular thing in music lately. At least I think it is, with country music being the biggest it's been in, I don't fucking know. Not to mention hip hop, which if you think about it, is just the average day of an African American. Sarcasm! But this is a different kind of mundane. It's the rambly detour riddle overthinking usually reserved for undiagnosed neurotics. Like I said, it's the pinnacle of lonely white guy music. Well, lonely old millennial guy music in general. Right up there with Thibodeau, Silver Jews, and Creed. But there's something weirdly refreshing about Doman's approach because he might not actually be, miserable. And it's just a look into his head where all sorts of emotions exist, and he just chooses to present the ones most relatable and vulnerable, but with some bumping guitar and smartly crafted lyrics to bring it all together. Being small and niche is something I often think about, not just in terms of creativity, but in life. Living day to day and not being able to recognize that I'm living my story. And yeah, it's no blockbuster, but it's damn sure no grimy Eastern European snuff film either. And you know what? I'll take that as a win. It all comes down to appreciating the small things, which I do twice in the morning and twice at night. Bazinga. Bazinga. Or more accurately, knowing that things can be worse. And maybe that time you called that lady who looked like a guy from behind wasn't so bad, because it could be a sobering moment, one that you could even, but please to God, don't put in a song. All right. Okay. All right. I'm done. I say a lot in these because I just don't know what to say. Well, thank you. Firstly, thank you for watching the video. I just hit 300 subscribers. Once again, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to get these videos out a lot quicker. I know I said that last time, yada yada, but definitely give this album a listen. I really give all of Wearing That Motorist a listen. I really like this band. It's like, I mean, I like all the bands I talk about because I don't really like wasting my time, but this one in particular, because it's like, I didn't know how small of a band, because like they're very like highly acclaimed, so it's, my brain automatically thinks, oh, if they're acclaimed, they people know them, people will see them, people will talk about them. But no, that's not always the case, and it was a shocker to me originally, but not so much now. It kind of makes sense. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you subscribe, thank you. If you didn't, thank you for being here. If you comment, thank you. If you like, thank you. Just want to say thank you. I think I hit my quote for thank you. Bye-bye.